Hello everybody, my name is Jenna Sams, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about organ donations and transplants. We usually think of organ donations happening an extremely long time ago, but truthfully, the first successful living donor transplanted their organ about 60 years ago. Today I'm going to enlighten you with the history of organ donations, information about organ donors and transplants as they are seen today, and how they may affect you in the future. Firstly, I think it's best that we start at the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth, and shortly after, in Genesis 2, we see that God put a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. He took Adam's rib, and out of that he formed Eve. So we can clearly see that transplantations was an idea from the very beginning. In 1954, Dr. Joseph E. Murray did the first successful kidney transplant from one brother to the other. This was an amazing thing, except unfortunately, 8 years later after the transplant, the brother who received the kidney passed away from something unrelated to the surgery. Ronald, the brother who donated the kidney, survived until 2010, 4 days after the 56th anniversary of the surgery. He only died 10 years ago, which is crazy when you think about that. Transplants are a huge risk to do today, but back then they still had to keep performing and doing these ideas, so they went from kidney transplant to liver transplants. And that in that time span, it was 12 years before the first successful liver transplant was performed. So because of this excessive need of transplants, they created UNOS, which stands for United Network for Organ Sharing, in 1977. UNOS's mission statement states, incorporated as an independent, nonprofit organization committed to saving lives through uniting supporting the efforts of donation and transplantation professionals. They have since not changed their mission statement. In 2001, the first time in history that the number of living donors was greater than the number of deceased donors. So even though we've come so far since then, that is a little bit about the history of organ donations. Secondly, I want to introduce to you today what the process looks like a little bit more today. So a common question is who can give or receive organs? And usually we would think that there are special circumstances, but truly your age, race, health, or ethnicity still make you a viable candidate. If your organs are unhealthy organs, then they may not be able to be used, and that would be something that would make you not a viable candidate. In March 2020, over 112,000 people were on the waiting list for UNOS. And that shows you the excessive abundant need for transplants. So even though you can donate kidneys and stuff like that without having to have all of these special circumstances, to actually receive the organ is a different story. At least 20 people die a day waiting for an organ, and right now 83% of the 112,000 are waiting for a kidney, which can be donated by a living donor. So that's a little tough to swallow. What organs can be given? That's another common question when asked about organ donations. In a deceased donor, they can donate kidneys, liver, lungs, heart, pancreas, intestines, and hands and faces have also been added to that recently. Living donors can donate a lot as well, even though you wouldn't think so. They can donate up to 1 kidney, 1 lung, as well as portions of the liver, pancreas, and intestines. Besides traditional organ donations, the medical advancement has allowed for many other things, including the donation of corneas, tissues such as skin, bones, tendons, valves, bone marrow, and blood. From tissues alone, 30,000 donors a year have done life-saving donations, so that's really incredible. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, I want to address how organ donations may affect you. Most people don't spend their time doing a bunch of research about organ donations, but to put it into perspective, nurses alone were tested on general facts about organ donation. Only about 60% of them had an adequate knowledge, and that's just the general facts. So imagine how the general public would do on a test like that. Knowledge is the key to understanding, so keep that in mind. In a study over a 25-year period, just under 48% of those needing a transplant actually got one. So there is a huge need here, and in another study conducted among young people like you and I, a lot of them, the majority of them, felt extremely positive towards organ donation, and they felt that it was a great thing for the recipient and their families. But when asked who is willing to donate, 4% of them were willing, which is, it's really crazy when you think about it. Your knowledge on the subject is extremely important. As James 4:14 wisely states, "We do not know what tomorrow may bring. Life is yet a vapor, here only for a moment, and then it vanishes." In conclusion, the understanding of organ donations and transplants lies behind the knowledge of it. We have addressed the history of organ donations, its presence in the modern world, and a little bit of insight on how it could possibly affect you in the future. It is my wish that you take all of this knowledge and leave this room knowing more than you came in with. I have provided many details about organ donations, but it is still great to look up research on your own and find out more about organ donations and statistics on your own time as well. With education comes change. Thank you so much for listening.